This week we are going to be talking about the instructional design process and giving an overview of the instructional design models using the ADDIE model that was covered in the book. And the whole purpose is to gain an understanding of what an instructional design model is and why it would be used in a training and development program. To start, what is instructional design? And these individuals have defined instructional design as the creation of instructional experiences which make the acquisition of knowledge and skill more efficient, effective, and appealing. Let's analyze this definition from a training and development perspective, and I'll use the paper cup assignment that we just had to emphasize this definition and how it relates to training and development. So when we went about creating our training program for the paper cup, we thought about the instructional experiences. What instruction are we going to include? Then we wanted to make sure that whatever instruction we had allowed them to acquire knowledge and skills. They had to be able to actually create that paper cup. And we wanted to make that as efficient, effective, and as appealing as possible. And so you guys were able to design your own training program that was efficient, effective, and appealing. And obviously we can determine the efficient and effective whether or not they actually created their paper cups. And was it appealing? You would have to ask your student whether or not they found that approach to be appealing. But it's important to think about the instructional design when we are creating any training and development program. Next, we're going to look at the three different components of the instructional design process. We're going to talk about the tools, and this is where we're going to spend most of our time when we look at the process, which is the instructional design models that we are going to be investigating this week. You also have the theory. Remember, we spent some time talking about different learning theories and how people learn, and you need to consider that when you are designing your training and development program. And we also need to think about what actual physical tools do we have, from technology to the work environment. Those need to be considered as well. We also have to think about the organization. What organization are we working in? It will change how we develop our training and development program, and also what approach we take with that. And we also have to consider the people involved in it. You will not be, unlike the paper cup assignment, you will probably never create your own training and development program. There will be a team of you, and you will have someone who is in charge of it. You'll have your boss who assists you on that. So that could be your management. You also have your teams. You will probably have a subject matter expert or someone that really knows the material and knows exactly what needs to be included in that program. Then finally, you'll have your learners. An instructional design model is a systematic approach to developing training programs. It is a process. If you think back, there is no universal model. The book always refers to ADDIE, and we'll go over that some here in a minute. ADDIE is the most commonly used model, but again, there is no universal model. And the whole idea is that when you go about creating a training program, if you want to use an instructional design model, there's a process to it. There's a systematic approach that you follow to ensure that you address every single step in the process. And I'm sure you guys probably didn't take that approach with the paper cup, but you probably didn't need to. Now imagine if you were creating a training and development program at Google to train new employees about a new program that they are going to be using. Google isn't just going to say go out there and wing it and come up with whatever you want. There is going to be that systematic approach that you must follow. If you ever go out, and we'll talk about this later in the semester as well, look at different jobs in training and development. They want you to be an expert in a certain instructional design model. A lot of times it's ADDIE, but sometimes there are some other ones that are in play, and we'll look at some of those models later today. The instructional design model is becoming especially common with online learning. As we said, how training and development is going online. We talked a little bit about technology last week, and technology is changing training and development and providing more training online. And the instructional design model does an excellent job of developing different programs to meet the needs of those specific users. The training design process, as I said, is different for each instructional design model that you choose. And depending on what model you select will determine the process. But in general, there are certain themes that you will find in any model that you use. And number one, again, these are all things that we have addressed so far in the course. You're going to have to conduct that needs assessment. You're going to have to look from an organization perspective, the person perspective, and the task perspective. Number one, to ensure that training is necessary and also that training is the best option. You're also going to have to make sure that your employees are ready to learn. Do they have the attitudes, motivation, and basic skills? If those are missing, we need to take a step back and either determine training and development probably isn't the right process, or train them on those basic skills so they can get up to speed. If you've ever taken a class where you were lost in the beginning or you didn't understand what was going on, maybe you didn't possess those basic skills. So if you fail the class, it would be more so because you didn't have those basic skills rather than the training program was not effective or the course was not effective. Number three, you have to create that learning environment. You have to think about your learning objectives, what material you are going to have, what all is going to be included as far as practice feedback, what is going to be your community of learning and modeling of the material. And again, as we are moving more towards online learning, these are starting to change. And how do you develop a online training program? We also have to ensure that transfer of training occurred. It's great that you took this training program, but did it actually change? Can you take those skills and apply them back to your workplace? And we talked about near and far transfer, and more than likely with most of these instructional design models, it's going to be a far transfer where what you learn watching a video is not, you're probably not going to be able to actually apply that to your job. So you're going to have to take those skills and then go apply it to your job. You need to have some type of evaluation plan. You have to determine whether or not that your training program was beneficial, not beneficial. And you need to figure out, why was the training program effective, not effective? Also, what could you change about it? Then you need to select your training method. There's the traditional where you would go out to a company or you would have individuals come to you and you present that training program. But as I said, there's more and more going towards that e-learning where you design the entire training program online, and that way individuals can take it at their convenience from their office. Then you need to monitor and evaluate the program. Determine what changes need to be made. Again, if you design a training and development program, it's probably good for 2 or 3 years. Then you're going to have to start to think about, okay, what changes do we need to make? Was it effective? Has the technology shifted to the point that this program is no longer necessary? And you need to evaluate that. So that's very similar to the ADDIE model. And again, the ADDIE model is always used just because of its simplicity, and where number one, you start off, you analyze the situation, you will design your training program, and these are all steps that we have done so far in this course. You develop it, you implement it, then you evaluate it. And with any design model, you are going to follow some type of approach. Next, I'll show you several of the different instructional design models that are out there today. Here's just one of the many sites available that talk about different instructional design models. And you'll find almost any website that goes into any great detail about instructional design models have or utilize some of the same ones. There are hundreds, I don't know about hundreds, but there are numerous different models available. So obviously you have your ADDIE model, which were the book covers. You have the SAM model. And again, I'm not going to go into more details with these because that'll be your job this week to actually create your own presentation around one of these instructional design models. Merrill's First Principles of Instruction, Gagne's 9 Events of Instruction. And as you can see, each of these models is different but have that same core, the same ideas that we see in all of these. Here's Bloom's taxonomy, which is used quite often in education. And I would argue, I don't know that that's necessarily a instructional model, but it is something that is very common in education. The Dick and Carey model is one of the more common ones. Usually you're either going to find the ADDIE or the Dick and Carey model. And the Dick and Carey model is just a little more detailed as compared to the ADDIE model. And as you can see here from the design process, you have your Kemp's instructional design model, Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of training evaluation. And usually most people are familiar with all of these models, but really focus in on one or two where their area of expertise is. Next, I'll show you another short list that I've created for you to look at as well. I have created a short little cheat sheet for each of these models that you can use. Last semester I took a course, and the majority of the course was spent just talking about different instructional design models and how they are used in education or the workplace. So I've created this cheat sheet for you that you can look at, and again it addresses many of the same models that we covered with the other website. There are a few other ones such as backward design, which is often used in education, where we start at the end and work our way back. Again, you see the Dick and Carey systems, the Gagne theory, the gradual release, a responsibility model, the Merrill. Like I said, there are numerous options available. And then finally, rapid prototyping, which the book gets into in just a little bit. And essentially what it does is it just kind of shrinks down the entire process to make it a little bit smoother and quicker. So I've included this for you as well to give you a outline of each of these models. Again, we could spend the entire semester just talking about different instructional design models. What I really want you to take away from this is the value that instructional models give in a training and development program, and that more than likely, if you want to go into training and development, you're going to have a instructional design model that you use, that you're an expert in, and that you can design your training programs around.